It is so much my pleasure, you guys, to introduce to you Dr. Raymont Anderson. You know, each time you engage a being, relationship is created. And in my experience, I have been so blessed to have the opportunity to re-engage Dr. Ray a number of times since the first time he inspired us to invite him to come and speak. And I don't know who all was able to come that time. But since that time, oh my goodness, I am really getting to know this phenomenal light on the planet. And we are so blessed, you guys, to have him with us here today. And I just want to say, as we move into this topic, I'm grateful to have such a light introducing this balance of the sacred and the profane, and then certainly rolling that into the workshop this afternoon. And there really isn't anything more to be said besides what he can say for himself. So thank you, Dr. Ray. I turn this over to you, sir.
Thank you, thank you. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with my CSL Louisville family once again. How y'all doing? Come on now, I need some smiles. Come on now. We're talking about a very interesting topic today. You know, we're talking about that. So we're going to address exactly what Vicki said. And today we're specifically diving into one of those areas that we don't often look at as being important, right? Like there's this aspect of, oh, it's boring. Oh, it's whatever that is. And so we don't really envelop it. We don't bring it in. Like we Tupperware our spirituality. Like that's sort of what we're doing by placing certain things as sacred and other things as, ew, that's mundane. It is secular. It is something different and other than. But if God is all there is, then God is all there is. So this idea for this theme, the mundane, the sacred, and the profane, oh my, it's a word game. Like ultimately, this is a word game. It's not really about what the words are, but it's about the energy that the words represent. It's the energy back of the words. So today, specifically, we're going to jump into this idea of the mundane and how many of us have had, we may have been the child. How many of us know someone or had a child or we were the child who, I'm bored. I don't have anything to do. And then, you know, Nana or Pop or Mom, Dad, somebody said, go find something to do. Go outside. I don't want to go outside. Go read a book. I don't want to read a book. Play checkers. What do you want to do? I don't know. I'm bored. How many of us, even as adults, how many of us have been in that space of, I'm bored. We're at work. I'm bored. We're whatever it is. We're studying science of mind and spirit, and we're reading this again. Now, if we're really going to dissect, if we're really going to get into it, then we have to talk about, well, what does it mean to be bored? Like, what is boredom? And if I were to ask you, which I'm not, because we're going to save the quiz for the next time I show up, but if I were to ask you, in your own words, how would you define or explain to someone what boredom is? So pause and think for a moment, what words would I use that represent the energy of boredom? And then we say, okay, boredom is a common feeling. Okay, like it's normal. When they say common, it means a variety of people experience it. There's this feeling of, you know, being unsatisfied with an activity and etc. And I want us to focus on this idea of boredom is feeling unsatisfied, feeling uninterested, feeling disinterested. And we have this energy, but where do I direct it? This is especially true of many children. It's one reason why a lot of children are labeled and diagnosed ADHD. Or any number of other things, because they have this energy, but the manner in which the school system is built it doesn't give them adequate access to channeling that energy. So it's easier to slap a label on them, give them a pill or something, and then make them conform, which is actually saying, turn your light down, dim the energy, and fit in. And oftentimes, this idea of boredom comes from, I don't want to fit in. I don't want to fit in. And what you are trying to make me do is sit in a cubicle from 9 to 5, crunching numbers, competing with the Joneses, involved in the rat race, etc., and I feel out of alignment with that. And so what it creates is boredom. We then have difficulty focusing. Well, why? Because we're trying to focus on something that really isn't in our highest and best oftentimes. And we get into this habit. When I have boredom at work and I'm not sure what or how, then that boredom, that feeling gets carried into my home, my relationship with kids and grandkids and spouse and people at church, and like it gets carried everywhere because it becomes my common feeling. It becomes the new norm. Then there's the aspect of boredom when it's Vicky says, "Hey, Reverend Ray, how are you feeling today? You know, I noticed you were upset yesterday. Oh, and I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to go to that space where Vicky is inviting me to go. So I move the energy, shift the energy, deny the energy, and bypass it, which then moves me back into that space of be regular old everyday commonality. Thou shalt not be vulnerable, for the conditions of the consciousness of the collective doesn't want us to be vulnerable. The conditions of the collective consciousness wants us to be mundane. It wants us to be what everything and everyone else is. It wants us to conform. As Layman Pong says, how miraculous and wondrous hauling water and collecting firewood. You said, what? How miraculous? Dude, you asking me to do laundry and you talking about some how miraculous. Yes, Ray, how miraculous and wondrous it is that you get to participate in this. Whoa, time out. How so? How do you realize how many people on the face of this planet do not have the luxury of doing laundry? Oh, so you're telling me there's privilege. You have dishes to wash. You know how many people on the face of the planet don't have dishes? Oh, and when we step into this space, wait a minute, then it truly is miraculous and wondrous to be able to participate, to be able to engage in all of the activities of spirit when we bring our consciousness to it in that manner. Then doing laundry, mopping the floor, buying a new Swifter, whatever it is, then invites us into, so wait a minute, how can I bring the realization? How can I, as Katrina said, how can I move past the surface of this activity and go deeper? Go deeper into the activity of life living itself as me sweeping the floor. And when you think about it, what is this activity a spiritual demonstration of? As you sweep, as you mop, what are you doing? Cleaning. You are cleaning the house. How are you invited to clean your consciousness, clean your belief systems, clean your relationships? Where are you invited to tidy up rather than sweep it under the rug? How many relationships do we sweep it under the rug? How many corporate corruptive things sweep it under the rug? Just don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain. This isn't the Wizard of Oz. We are invited to pull away the curtain. We are invited to use the soap and water of spirit to cleanse, to clean, to re-purify whatever it is that we are doing and recognize that it's all sacred. So when we talk about this mundane sigh, which is actually the theme for specifically today, which was last week, but it's today now, because I'm with you today. The mundane is the boring, the humdrum, the dull, the tedious, etc. It's often referenced as that which is secular, which is, quote unquote, labeled as not spiritual. Well, wait a minute. What we know within Science of Mind and Spirit is God is all there is. There is only one life, and that life is God. And what it is everything, everywhere, and not absorbed by its creation. So the sacred is everywhere. Then why do we separate, compartmentalize, and Tupperware? Because it's easier. The collective consciousness would rather have us conform, so it's easier to separate this thing or that thing as, well, God's not there. That's not holy. That's not sacred. Because in the grand scheme of things, when we say that everything is sacred, well, surely we wouldn't say that war is sacred. Surely we wouldn't say that a school shooting is sacred. No. The activity that is being expressed is not a demonstration of the sacred, and yet God is present. So our invitation when we recognize that it's all spiritual and sacred is how do we bring healing to the war? So that children one day only read about, hey, Pop, so are you serious that back in the year 2023, there was really a thing called war? Yes. And now it is no more because we, the adults, we, the people of the planet, came together for a new consciousness. We came together recognizing God in all places. So there is no longer a fetish for guns. There is no longer a fetish for competition. There is no longer a fetish for corruption. There's no longer. But we can only do that when we recognize that the mundane is simply a word we use for linguistic convenience. God is present. How do we activate that awareness? Well, Sharon Salzberg says, being aware of whatever we are experiencing with a peaceful attitude allows us not to be driven into restlessness. So where are we being invited to have a peaceful attitude? When are we invited, and I don't mean just the attitude. I mean, have you ever seen someone get a new pair of glasses, a new dress, a new pair of shoes, and they put it on and it changes how they move? They have a new attitude and they've embodied it. It's not just inside. When I see Pam, can I tell what Pam's attitude is? Yes, when Pam smiles and lights up, because the attitude that's inside is being expressed externally. So how can we now embody this peaceful attitude that allows us to be driven by principle, not the precedent of what was as we conform? So, what time zone do you live in? Ha ha ha. No, I'm not talking about these time zones. I'm talking about these time zones. What time zone do you live in? Because a lot of us live in these two. I live in the past or I live in the future. I don't know how to live right now. Now is all we have. Anyone who knows me knows that whenever I lead a meditation or I pray or whatnot, I remind folks, we cannot rebreathe yesterday's breath. We cannot pre-breathe tomorrow's breath. We can't save a breath for a rainy day. The only breath we have is this divine inhale and this divine exhale. And this anchors us to the present. And in the present, we are in the presence of the infinite as it breathes itself as us. How can we be present to the presence as it lives, moves, and has its beingness in, through, and as us? Because when we do that, then we realize that washing dishes is God washing God, using God to clean. It's all God. The soap, the water, the dishes, the crumbs of food from the lasagna, from baked on, it's all the divine. Which changes, it's no longer simply washing the dishes, but can I wash them mindfully, lovingly, with gratitude that I had food to put on the dish, that I have soap and water to clean the dish, that I am nourished, that I broke bread with family or friends. Can I be grateful in this moment for whatever it is that I have been conditioned to believe is mundane? Dr. Holmes says we should not look forward to a hereafter without activity, but to a place where our work will be done in greater harmony with the divine law because of greater understanding. Once again, we should not look forward to somewhere like heaven. We shouldn't look forward to one day heaven will come. I'll be at peace when I'm done. What? No. Just stop. You're never done. Life is God and it does not end. So even when this physical incarnation ceases to be, the divine that we are continues. So let's stop waiting for retirement to live our lives. Let's stop waiting for the kids to graduate and go off to college to enjoy our lives. We believe that heaven is within and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it right here and right now. Remember that Jesus taught them saying, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Right here, right now, in this moment. Not tomorrow, not next week, not on your next birthday, not next Christmas, not when, no. Right here and right now, because God is right here and right now. And so when we anchor into this awareness, where is God? Right here. Who is God? You are. So what are you now invited to do? Recognizing that you are the very incarnation, the very individualized expression of spirit. What are we now invited to do? How do we now show up in the world? Think about if you were to win Powerball, Mega Million, for $100 million, what in your life would change? It doesn't change the fact that you're God. It doesn't change the fact that you're divine. It doesn't change the fact that you are love incarnating. The money may afford you certain things that you can now do. But when we recognize that you are God, you are the infinite I am that is ever expressing, why don't we anchor into that and what that now allows us to do, what that awareness allows us to be in the world? Because then that changes how we talk about racism, sexism, homophonia. It changes how we talk about war. For example, do we want to end war? Yes. Then maybe let's stop using violent communication. And what I mean by that is kill two birds with one stone. Well, Ray, what are you doing this weekend? Nothing, just killing time. I don't have a dog in that fight. All of that is about violent competition and destruction. If we want peace on earth, goodwill towards all, then let's start bringing the activity of the divine into all. As we gradually wake up, we wake up what already exists in the mind of God. There is only one mind, and that mind is God. And that mind is your mind right now. And because we wake up to it, we wake up and realize it, we wake up and embody it, it appears to us, through us, and as us. And what does that invite us to do? Create a world that works for all by living a world that works for all. So how do you practice? I eat and sleep. Wait, say what now? Then how do you differ to ordinary deluded people? Well, see, ordinary people, quote unquote, when sleeping and eating are bound by 100 ropes. When they sleep, they don't really sleep. And when they eat, they don't really eat because they are constantly thinking about 1,000 different things. They're not present. That's why it's different. How can we bring the present reverence? In other words, bring to mind someone that, a famous person that if they were to walk into your living room right now, you would be like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, it's Oprah. She's in my living room. Oh my, oh, it's the Dalai Lama. Like, who is that person? And what is it about them that would make you have such reverence? Because they too are a divine expression of God, no different than you. So do you have that kind of reverence for yourself when you wake up? When you walk into your own living room and you walk into your living room like, ha ha, the queen has arrived. I am sacred. I am holy. I am light made flesh. Today is a good day because I deem it so. Now I go out into the world and transform a world that works for all because of my consciousness, because of my light, because I am the incarnation of the one life, the one mind, love itself. I love being me. It is fun being me. Oh my, don't you know I'm Bev? I'm great. I'm glorious. I am God incarnating. I am beauty incarnating. I am infinite in this expression. Ooh, watch out. I'm in the house now. Like, when do we step into that awareness? When do we stop labeling certain things? Okay, pause. Remember Jordache? I don't know, y'all might not be old enough to remember Jordache, but I remember Jordache jeans. And I remember Cabbage Patch Kids. And I remember people going like bonkers for the label, the name brand. But they're jeans. Oh, see, I see what we're doing. We're placing greater value on a label. We place greater value on certain things and certain people. We deem this sacred, but that's not. We deem that as that language is profane, that whatever is mundane, that, oh. And on a certain level, the label doesn't matter. We use all sorts of labels, and that is fine because we have to use labels. I have to be able to call this water in order for Katrina to know that it's not apple juice if Katrina wants water. Like, labels are fine. But it's when we become more enamored by the label than what the label represents that we start to lose our way. Labels of this is secular, that's sacred, that they're Christian, they're Muslim, they're Jewish, they're atheist, they're a Satanist, got to avoid them, etc., etc., rather than stepping into the vastness of life's buffet. We are content with our plate of peas, potatoes, and steak, while making the vegetarian or the vegan some kind of quote unquote antichrist. How dare you not eat beef? What do you mean you're a vegan? I can't even say that. That means it's sacrilegious. We don't do that in my house. We eat meat. Okay, that's what you do. But why are you? Because you are more enamored with the label. So we are invited to pivot, to shift our consciousness from the obsession and the addiction to the labels, and then explore. If it's all God, if that which I am labeling is God, then what is mine to do in order to manifest a world that truly works for all? And that's ultimately our question. What is mine to do? As I am the living embodiment of all that is, incarnating itself in this. It is the infinite showing up in a finite form. It is the infinite H2O. H2O, in and of itself as a formula, is boundless. But when it shows up in a container, it's finite. And yet the principle, the energy, is infinite. We are the infinite. We are the eternal. We are the all that is. Now, what do we do with it? How do we chop wood, carry water, dig a boogie? Whatever it is, it's all sacred practice. Because even that, Even that, think about it. The nose is doing a certain biological thing to clean and keep impurities from entering into your respiration. So it's like cling, 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 and then it accumulates until such time as you're like, now I have, excuse me for a second. And you do what you do to eradicate, to release, to surrender, simply for it to do it again. It's all God. And so it is.